But in the interest of time now, we're going to move right along into the next session, the legal aspects of ganja, or marijuana, or cannabis, as some people would like to refer to it. And I would like to welcome Joan Webley as the next speaker to speak to this topic of legal aspects surrounding ganja, cannabis. So yes, Joan, give thanks.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, thank you very much and good evening everybody. Greetings. Greetings. I'm here to talk about teaching intellectual property more than even speaking about the law itself. And I'm hoping that at the end of this talk, not that you remember everything about the law, but more importantly, that you are as interested in this as I am. That you go home energized with a direction and an understanding of why this is important to you. Don't just view it as, oh, that copyright thing. Yeah man, we need to have that too. My aim at the end of my brief 15 to 20 minutes is to hopefully inspire you to go home and read up and find out more. Everything that myself and my fellow presenter is going to say to you is available on YouTube. It's available in Google. Our hope is to empower everyone here today. I teach. I'm an intellectual property attorney, but I teach. That's what I do a lot. It's actually what I began doing from I was 18 years old, and it's what I enjoy doing the most. Because when you teach, you give people power. You empower persons to be able to do more for themselves. So in intellectual property law, I've been fortunate enough to teach at different levels. Up to last week, I was teaching in a primary school in Remo. But in other parts or walks of life for the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, I used to teach judges. I used to teach police officers at Twickenham Park what intellectual property is about. Because all of us need to understand this. And why? Why is it? Does anyone here understand intellectual property law? Does anyone here feel confident about what this means to them in terms of ganja? Does anyone think this is important for them to know what this means?
Very much.
And that is probably relevant. Okay, so as I mentioned, Luke is going to go into it in detail. His presentation from Oxford University is amazing. But my introduction is really to inspire. So to leave three quick keywords and reminders is what I'm going to do first, just as words to remember, and then I'm going to go on to say why that's important. Everyone here in Jamaica speaks about copyright all the time, yes? Agreed? Help me people, keep the energy flowing. Everyone in Jamaica speaks about copyright, yes? All the time. What are we talking? From now on, whenever you hear that word, I would love for you to instantly think creativity. Anytime you are dealing with an aspect of creativity, you are handling copyright law. It's really, on the simplest level, it's about that. So copyright is creativity. Anytime you're speaking about trademarks, you've heard of that, yes? Trademarks is another word that you want to think about branding. Anytime that's a brand name, or yo, I like that brand, you're talking about trademarks. That's at its simplest level, and there's many, many more things to understand about it. Luke will go into that. And then the last word I'd love for you to remember is patents, or patent law. Persons have heard about it a lot, it's in this fair, and that comes around innovation. So if you're thinking about anything innovative, if you think that you've come up with something new, or if you think that you're using something that everybody has, but you're using it in a new way, you're an innovator. And what you've done may be capable of being patented. So that's your simple connections. Remember the words with me. Copyright is? Thank you. Creativity. Trademarks are? A form of branding, and patents are a form of, or for protecting, innovation. Alright, so why should you care? We're in Jamaica, people. What do we have as our biggest raw material in this country, apart from sunlight, apart from the water, land of sun and sea and all of that? What do we have that we export in abundance? Our culture, our creativity. We speak about creative industries all the time. If you are working in music, if you are working in film, if you are working in fashion, if you are working in crafts, if you are working in painting, writing, if you are working in ganja, you are invariably cutting across intellectual property. It has to matter to you. You can't escape it. You didn't even have to do anything to get it. And that is why I love intellectual property. So here's where I want you to get excited with me now. How many of you are owners of intellectual property? Alright, I see four hands. 5. Okay, how many people here have ever written a story? I see a few more hands. How many people here have ever drawn something? How many people have taken a picture? A photograph? How many of you have ever written a song, a poem? All of those people needed to have raised their hands. All of you are owners of intellectual property. Do you know that intellectual property is a special type of law? Some of it is actually viewed as a human right. That means there is no financial barrier to your ownership of this. Copyright law is that type of intellectual property. And remember what copyright goes on? Give me back the word. Creativity. That means that there is no financial barrier to you to be the owner of this form of property. That is recognized internationally. It's not just recognized here in Jamaica. You make your piece of craft, you make your piece of art, you take your picture, you write your song. You own a piece of property and you own it worldwide. Not just in Jamaica, you own it. And you didn't have to do anything other than put it into form. Take it out of your brain, take it out of your heart, your soul, and put it into form. And now you're a property owner, look at that. And it's a special type of property. How many times can you sell your car? Once. Alright, well for Jamaicans it seems like a trick question. I don't know. Let me go again. If you own a car, how many times are you able to sell that car? Thank you. Real simple question. You should, people, only sell that car once. Because that's that type of property. You can only sell it once. If you write a song, how many times can you sell a CD with your songs? Infinite. Thank you, my darling. And that's a wonderful thing about intellectual property. So follow me. You didn't have to have any money to make it and own it. And you can sell it whole heap of times and still own it. This is a very special type of, and it's legal. This is a very special type of property. It's one that we as Jamaicans need to pay more attention to. It's one that, I mentioned all of the industries in creativity it cuts across, but Ganja needs it, coffee needs it, all of our real big outputs benefit from it. And I'll close now or turn over soon to Luke, who I think he's gonna go through everything. But I want to pose a question to you. Now that you understand that copyright means creativity and that trademarks are all about branding or brand names, and that patents are all about innovation and newness, I want you to start thinking about what the opportunity that we have here with Ganja. Remember that it's not just one type of intellectual property. Sometimes you can own one thing and it has lots of different types of intellectual property rolled up into it. When we speak about Ganja in Jamaica, it's not just about THC and CBD. We're learning how important that stuff is. It's never usually been about that for us. What was it really about? It was about a meditation. It was about an entire experience. It's a culture. It's a way of life. You know, many persons, there are many stereotypes, and I am here, I am a part of Itopia Life team, and our company is really committed in a huge way to breaking some of those stereotypes and destigmatizing and living true, speaking freely and honestly about this plant and taking it out from underneath the shelf where Granny hid the rum buckle, and embracing the fact that it was not just Rasta that saw this truth before the rest of the world did. You know, I will say to my mother every day, as Auntie Barra has just spoken, Rasta hasn't done the greatest job necessarily of communicating its ideals. But the world speaks about organic freely, not understanding that Rasta said ital first. And that's even a greater standard than organic is at times. So the reality of what we hold is for us to understand and perceive it through their lens, through the legal structures, and then start to really grab a hold of that. I'm going to leave you, as I said, with just a quick what if. What if we pretended that St. Anne was like Colorado? You following me? What if we pretended that the parish of St. Anne was like the state of Colorado? You know that? So in America, on a federal level, marijuana is illegal, or cannabis is illegal, right? But on their state or individual levels, they have been able to do business. They've been able to establish a cannabis industry that is thriving and helping those states to do better. What if here in Jamaica we lay claim to the traditional cultural knowledge that exists in a parish like St. Anne or in a parish like Westmoreland? Why did I go so far? In a parish like Westmoreland, where generations of persons can validly lay claim to ownership of this right to grow, to ownership of an indigenous and a knowledge that wasn't written in a book, but was passed on from generation to generation and created strains which are known and still revered and hunted and searched for worldwide. What if we decided to say this is a little satellite state and this little satellite state is operating business? You know what I mean? In much in the way that Colorado is, I don't know, it's something for us to think about, because what is true is that we have a lot of power, we have a lot of intellectual property at our fingertips, lots of trademarks, and you know, there's things to be developed, geographical indications. I'm glad to see that Rastafari is jumping the hurdle of groupings and starting to point to an organization or entity for itself, because there's a lot that has laid idle and unclaimed just for that little hurdle. Geographical indications can only be owned by a group. Collectives need to own this, and that power is yours. Luke is going to explain what geographical indications are, by the way. So in closing, I will pass on to Luke now so that he can go through the different types of intellectual property law. I will be here hopefully to answer questions. I told your life, as I said, and I hope that you're interested in intellectual property. Go home and Google it, go home and look at it on YouTube, or contact an attorney and really find out about your deeper rights. But information is yours, and empower yourself. You need to know what these things are and all of what you have. Thank you.